Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
Hello. David has a story to tell us about dogs, but we're going to get to that last. I know nothing about the story, so my reaction will be genuine. It'll be sincere, and I can't wait to hear this story. Anytime there's something driving David crazy, I just love hearing about it. First, I want to get to this story about participation trophies and just the general idea behind this. Now, I started thinking about this when I read this story about James Harrison on the Pittsburgh Steelers, the American football team, and he's a linebacker for the Steelers. And his kids, I guess, they brought home some participation trophies awarded to them by their sports league. And you look at the trophies, they really don't say much of anything on them. They have the name of the league, and just for being there, you get a trophy. And he announced that his sons aren't taught that they're entitled to something just because they tried their best. And he said, I came home to find out that my boys received 2 trophies for nothing, participation trophies. While I'm very proud of my boys for everything they do and will continue and will encourage them until the day I die, these trophies will be given back until they earn a real trophy. I'm sorry for not believing that everything in life should be, I'm sorry for believing that everything in life should be earned, and I'm not about to raise 2 boys to be men by making them believe that they are entitled to something just because they tried their best, because sometimes your best is not enough. And you should want to do better. That should drive you to want to do better. So, first of all, David, should children be getting trophies just for showing up, just for being on the team? Should everyone get a trophy?
There's 2 views on this, and it probably, for some people, depends on the age of the kids. One view is the participation trophy is for younger kids to prevent them from doing something, and at that age, sometimes their perception of the value or of a reward is very connected to tangible things. So while they would still have their parents' respect and I'm sure joy that they participated in a sport no matter whether they win or lose, there's this idea that you're going to encourage kids to keep wanting to do stuff by giving them a trophy for participating. And that at a certain point, the kids are going to be old enough where they say, listen, I know that what really, that there's a difference between a trophy for winning and a trophy for participating. And I don't really care about the trophy for participating, but I'm also old enough to understand that it's not the end of the world if you don't get the trophy for winning, right? That's one side which says that's the point of these participation trophies. The other side would be, well, you're really going to create a sort of sense of entitlement, as is talked about here by the Steelers linebacker, by giving everybody something. And it gives the idea that, listen, it doesn't matter what you do in life, you're always going to get rewarded. Whatever the outcome is, you're going to get rewarded. And this is not really the way life works, right? In any sports beyond the elementary school level where they have participation trophies, that's not the way it works. In school, if you try really hard and still fail the test, yeah, you might be able to talk your way from an F to a D, but you're not going to just get an A for participating, right? So in jobs, you're not going to get promoted just for trying. And I don't know exactly where I fall on this. It really is fundamentally 2 different types of parenting. I think certainly the saying no trophies unless you earn it might be more associated with a sort of authoritarian parenting point of view, which often is connected to conservatism, but I think that would be a wrong assumption. I know plenty of non-authoritarian parents who are into the idea that, hey, you don't need a participation trophy. We're going to just talk about how the participation itself is its own reward, regardless of the outcome. And yeah, maybe it's nicer to win, maybe it's better to win, but you don't need the trophy. You're still, as an individual, somebody who has the same self-worth as the winners, so to speak, and they feel that's more important.
So that is the big question. Excuse me. Will a child be able to snap out of it and realize how ridiculous everything was, or will it impact them in a serious way and perhaps impede them in life? That is the question, and it's a difficult one to answer. Different parents will tell you different things. Harrison, in this case, was the youngest of 14 children. Incredible. And, well, you know, he achieved something that is very, very difficult to achieve. And that is a long and good career in the NFL. Pretty rare when you consider how many people are playing football in this country. So I have to say, I am against the participation trophy. I think that perhaps it will impede your child in some way. And just be realistic. Be realistic with your child at all times.
There's another thing we're missing, Lewis, which is that there's lots of opportunities where a participation certificate for everybody actually makes sense, because in a lot of ways, not everything is a competition. And if you say, hey, we're going to go to a weekend computer class and you're going to learn about computers, and when you get through the class, you'll get a participation certificate which says you successfully completed this, right? There are many opportunities where we can say, actually, something for participating for everybody does make sense. And I just am unsure of the value of doing participation trophies, even in more traditional, like, there's a winner here sort of thing. And I think a lot of it, if we had perfect parenting, the parents would be there to sort of explain that it doesn't matter that, not everybody wins. In fact, in most things, there's only one winner. If you have a basketball tournament, you're ultimately only going to have one winner. That doesn't devalue the importance of everybody else having played, but I know that you don't have that type of parenting all the time, and that's also an issue.
Yeah. So I think that, if there is another trophy to be awarded that is not just a participation trophy, then there shouldn't be a participation trophy. And that's how I feel.
Now,
Tell
Lewis,
me
what
about
about the winners get a trophy and everybody else gets something to commemorate their participation? We don't necessarily, like, if it's not a trophy per se, right? If it's an armband or who knows what, because you participated, does that feel different to you?
Well, that's just kind of a little bit silly. It does feel a little bit different. It's
Hmm.
not quite a trophy, this ornate thing that everyone gets. So I mean, I guess maybe that's okay. I mean, boy, you've got a jersey, don't you? You've got memories.
Yeah.
You've got presumably you won a few games, and you know, I just do we have to make everyone happy? Do we have to give everyone something? Let's cut down on plastic pollution and not give everyone some little thing that's made of plastic. Let's do that. Let's go green. Okay. Autonomous lawnmowers. It's about time. iRobot, the makers of the Roomba, which is that stupid little autonomous vacuum cleaner, will be building a lawnmower. They have just received approval for this. And the FCC has been very generous in granting them this approval of what might be a death machine, but we don't know the specifics of it. So, uh, what will it look like? Perhaps it will just look like a big Roomba that happens to have a blade underneath it. And how will it work? We're still not really sure about that yet. Perhaps it will be already mapped out. There might be stakes in the ground that transmit signals,
Sort of like an
and
electric fence for the lawnmower instead of the dog.
sort of, yeah. And it's still kind of up in the air. But I suppose that this might be the first company to put out this autonomous lawnmower. And I have to say, you know, it seems like a good product, and it had to happen sometime eventually.
We can
But
very much see how this one will eliminate jobs, right? I mean, all those
yeah,
people mowing lawns will not be necessary once you get this thing.
perhaps. Now, if you are very, very, very particular about your lawn and your shrubberies and your trees and bushes and all of that, well, okay, then you might want to have humans working and doing all that.
Right.
Golf courses. Will golf courses be using autonomous equipment? Probably not. Uh, Baseball stadiums, football stadiums, I really doubt it.
Oh, I don't know. I think you're going to be able to get some pretty nice looking grass if you have these in place at a golf course or at a soccer stadium or whatever.
Maybe, maybe. Early on, probably not. As you know, if the technology is new, I think many people in the landscape business will keep their jobs for quite a while. But yeah, it's going to happen. But you know, how long until we have lawnmowers that are as aware as, say, the autonomous cars that we're looking at now? Because will they be able to detect that little rock that they're about to roll over?
Hmm.
If are they able to detect that they might be approaching some animal of some sort, or a cable, or a wire, or a garden hose? And how do they adapt afterwards and change? And there are, of course, many variables. So at first I predicted this will probably just be more like a Roomba and not that intelligent. But hey, it's coming, and I guess that's good news for people with lawns everywhere. Dave, I guess it's time to. Oh, one more thing I need to address because I forgot to before. The story of the girl drowning because her dad let her drown rather than be touched by rescuers, even though it recently went viral, it's a really old story. I guess it's from like 1996, but it did happen. But I thought I would just address that. You know how that happens. Someone will post this and it'll be a story that's 5, 10, 15, 20 years old and it'll go viral. Well, that's what happened. Anyway, Dave, tell us about the dog story.
Here's what's going on. My dad, stepmom, and little sister have a dog. It is all three of their first dogs in their lives. The dog is about 2.5 years old. It is a black English lab. He is quite a big dog, 75 pounds. Great dog. They went on vacation a little while ago, and they had someone who was going to be watching the dog the entire time. That person bailed at the last moment through some circumstances that are complex to explain. So my dad ended up asking me to have it part of the time and that he would have it at a kennel that was highly recommended for part of the time. The only requirement was the dog needs to get the kennel cough vaccine before going in. I had the dog a couple days, brought it to the kennel. Everything seemed fine, would check in with the kennel while the dog was there, and was told the dog was doing fine, fine, fine. Yesterday, I go up to the kennel and I pick the dog up. He comes out. He seems happy. I ask about him. They say he's been doing great. Everything is absolutely fine. Terrific. Get him into the car, driving home, and I hear a cough. I didn't cough. My girlfriend didn't cough. Who coughed? The dog coughed. I look in the rearview mirror, and the dog's eyes are droopy, and he's got liquid coming out of his nose, and he's coughing. Coughing sounds like a person coughing. And I say, okay, this is a little weird. Maybe he's a little anxious because of the readjustment. Who knows what's going on? Although I've never heard a dog cough from anxiety before, I decide to wait. I get the dog home. I go out to do some errands, and I get a call from my girlfriend saying the dog is not only coughing, the dog is dry heaving and gurgling like he needs to throw up, but he's not actually throwing anything up. So I call the vet, and of course it's Sunday, so the vet number forwards to an emergency vet place, and I explain the situation. They say, okay, well, listen, you know, the kennel cough vaccine is not completely effective, particularly if you only have the initial dose. It's good to have a booster 3 weeks later. So this could be kennel cough, in which case you could have him seen by the vet tomorrow. But there's this other condition called bloat, which has similar symptoms. It usually also includes a distended belly, and that can be life-threatening. And I quote, time is of the essence. Obviously, I am not an expert in dogs. I can't tell if the dog's belly is distended or not. So I rush the dog to the emergency vet clinic. We spend 2.5 hours there. Ultimately, it's determined that he seems to have kennel cough, and they said, here's 2 options. We give you a broad spectrum antibiotic for 10 days without testing for the specific strain of kennel cough that he has. Or we do about $300 worth of invasive testing. It's invasive for the dog. We have to put stuff up their nose. It's really not good, to test for a specific strain of kennel cough. In most cases, it doesn't matter which strain it is. The broad spectrum antibiotic will take care of it, and will also give you a cough suppressant for the dog. Fine. $180 out the door. Get the dog home. Give him the antibiotic with his food. His appetite is fine. Give him the cough suppressant, which also makes him a little bit drowsy. Does fine during the night, although he did insist that I had to be up at 6:30 in the morning because that's apparently when the dog wants to be up. So I was out at a coffee shop this morning preparing today's show, got a call from my girlfriend. He started doing the dry heaving, and this time he threw up a bunch of white foam. So I call the vet and I explain what happened, and they say, listen, the white foam is just that all that saliva that is being generated by, because the kennel cough is kind of like a respiratory head cold type of situation. It's not uncommon. As long as his appetite is good, as long as he doesn't start appearing to have trouble breathing, it's not going to be a problem. Give him the cough suppressant, keep giving him the antibiotic. So that's where we are right now, Lewis. And it's quite a nightmare. My dad is supposed to be back Wednesday or Thursday, so I shouldn't have the dog too much longer, but it is quite a complicated situation. And you know, I've always loved dogs and have been thinking of when I moved to Boston, the place I'm going to be living in is dog friendly, maybe about getting a dog. And I know not all dogs have as sensitive a stomach and generally as sensitive as these English labs. But I'm thinking maybe no dog for the time being.
Yeah, make your life a little easier. I think that I've never owned a dog, first of all, let me say that. But when I moved to Texas, everyone had a dog.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody in my group had at least one dog. And when a friend of mine first moved there, he didn't have a dog, and then he got a dog. And I'm looking at all my friends, and I'm thinking to myself, yes, I know having a dog can be very rewarding.
Louis, I hate to interrupt. The bass just completely dropped out of your audio. It was so bizarre. The volume didn't go down this time, but the low end on your audio just completely bailed.
Has it resolved?
It has. It's completely back. What did you do?
I touched the wire.
Now,
Okay.
we've replaced the cable, and it doesn't seem like that's necessarily the issue. I'm wondering, we need to just start replacing piece by piece and see what the issue might be. Maybe the next thing is, I hate to think that it would be the mic. These mics are considered rock solid. Maybe it's your voice processor. I'm not really sure.
Yeah. Well, there are quite a few pieces involved in this system, so it's going to be difficult to figure out what's going on.
It dropped out again. So strange. And it's happening during the bonus show primarily. It's very odd.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to add one more thing to this, as I was saying, and then I'll be done. So please deal with the lack of bass. It's all treble. Anyway, I observed my friends with their dogs, and everyone had a dog, and I couldn't help but think that clearly dogs have made your lives far more complicated and have cost you a lot of money.
And presumably for them, the reward exceeds that.
Presumably, but I think that's hard to measure. It's hard to tell. I mean, couldn't you be just as happy without the dog? I mean, I think I could. I'm perfectly happy. I live I'm a fulfilling, rich life, if you will, without a dog. And so it complicates things so much.
And you're not anti-dog. I know you love dogs. You're just saying
dogs.
Right now for your place in life, you want to keep things as simple as possible, and you don't believe that the reward of having a dog will exceed the sort of logistics of it.
I love dogs. And, there were all these things we want to do, and, we can't do this because of dogs. Is this place dog friendly? I need someone to watch the dogs. What about the dogs? And, man, I can't deal with that, and I refuse to deal with that. So I think if I were to get anything, I'd get a cat. But I do love dogs, and I love it when it's someone else's responsibility. Although, sometimes that responsibility would fall on me because someone needed their dogs watched. And, well, who was that guy? It was me. And, it's not that big a deal. I really didn't mind. It was pretty easy. But dogs, complicating your lives. Tell me if you think that the companionship factor outweighs the inconveniences and the responsibility.
I think obviously for many people it does, right? I mean, I think it depends on your priorities and what the sort of situation is in which you have the dog. There's no question that it outweighs the logistics for probably millions of people.
For many people it will, but I also predict that for many people it won't. And it may be tough to admit that because of course you still love your dog, but tell me if anyone has felt that way.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.